Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jini, and in today's video I'll answer your questions like where do I get my tamas, what's the best way to store them, how can I display my devices, do I have a favorite tamagotchi, my tama broke, what should I do? All of these questions I'll answer today, and as always I don't want to talk too much, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay guys, so the very first question I noted down is how to buy a tamagotchi, and I get this question a lot. I want to give you my best tips and sources where you can get tamas. Let's talk about different platforms or like websites where you can get tamagotchi, and I think the most common one is eBay. Don't get me wrong, it's not a bad source, but most of the times the prices are just so inflated. In order to get a feel for the price, I can recommend to go to the filter section and filter out for the offers that are already ended, so you can see for how much some of the models were bought, and I think this gives you a good feel for how much a tama should cost. Of course, at the end it all comes down to what your preferences are, what is your budget. I think that filter section just really helps me to get a feel for price level of a certain tama. My personal tip for eBay is to look for auctions. I think auctions are generally a very good option because you can decide how much a tama is worth to you. I'm not using auctions that much anymore, but earlier when I started collecting, I liked using auctions because it gave me control over how much I'm willing to pay for the tama. So you'll set a personal limit as to how much you want to spend. I am speaking from personal experience. And then of course Facebook is a good source. There's actually the Facebook marketplace, so it's kind of like, yeah, just like the name says, it's a marketplace where you can sell and buy things there. And there are specific Tamagotchi buying or selling groups that you can enter. So there's a lot of that, and maybe that can help you find your dream tama. And with Facebook, I have quite good experiences because I feel like the prices there are a lot more realistic than on eBay. But beware of the additional fees, because when you're buying internationally, taxes, duties, shipping costs, and additional fees for a secure payment method could all add up, and at the end you'll be left with a lot of fees, so beware of that. Yeah, I forgot to say that, but of course, no matter who you're buying from or what website you're buying from, always make sure to pay with a very safe payment method where you're kind of insured, and always beware of like suspicious listings. If it's way too cheap, then more often than not, unfortunately, it's too good to be true. If possible, ask for a secured payment. Please be careful with these things. A few other sources I can recommend is second-hand shops, be it local or online. Most of my vintage tamas I've bought from the local German second-hand eBay. It's not the normal eBay, it's called eBay Kleinanzeigen. I can show you guys the symbol here. Most of my vintage tamas I've gotten from there. You also have the option to pay with a secure payment in most cases. And of course Vinted. Vinted is a little bit more international. I've seen a lot of like devices from Italy or France. If you're looking for newer models, I can really recommend the Japanese Amazon link. I will also link it in the description box. From Amazon Japan, I've gotten a lot of like new products, like for example my Sumiko Gurashi vpets, as well as my Pony Tapi-chan. I feel like Amazon in general is a very good source for the newer releases, like the Paradise. What I love about ordering from Amazon Japan is you don't have any additional fees that are after shipment, if that makes sense. What you're paying in the checkout is what you're paying, and that's it. Yeah, what I can also recommend are proxies, and proxies basically are companies that can buy the product for you from Japan, for example, and then they will send it to you. The ones that I like to use are ZeninTCG. I get all of my Digimon from there. I also really like Japan You Want. They also have a few like Tamagotchi goodies. I've used Buyee only once in my life, and that was years ago, so my experience was quite good with Buyee, but it's been a few years, so I don't know how it has changed until today. If you have used some of these services and can share your experiences, please do so in the comments down below. I'm sure that it would help a few people in this community. Buyee I can recommend because Buyee also includes Mercari, and I think it's a very good second-hand place to buy like vintage tamas from Japan for quite reasonable prices, but always account for like shipping and taxes and also like the proxy fee. But I still remember that I've gotten my frog Tama from Buyee, and that was a very lucky find. So I think these are all of my tips types. And at the end, keep in mind, good offers, they come and go. I know it can sometimes be frustrating to be in a collector hobby. Totally get you. I've been there, I've done that, I sometimes still am there, and I can get frustrated too. I know especially in a collector hobby, sometimes it can get very frustrating and just exhausting looking for good offers, but trust me, good offers, they come and go. I mean, at the end, this hobby is supposed to bring you fun, and if it doesn't do that anymore, it kind of defeats its purpose. Let's move on to the next question, which is, how do you decide which tamas you want to run? That's a very, very good question. It really depends on how busy I am, how much of a neediness I can tend to, if that makes sense, and how much of like a neediness I can hold up with. Sometimes I just feel like running a black and white screen tama, and sometimes I feel like running a color screen tama. So if I'm running more, I'm probably running a lot of unneedy devices, but if I'm only running one, I'm probably going for a needier one. But most of the times what I've noticed is I'll be running one black and white screen tama, and recently I've been really loving my connection re-release, so I'm running one at least. And depending on my schedule, I'll also be running a color screen tama. Right now I'm also running my pink paradise. Let me show you my current tama. I'm running it with the community actually for our spring hatch. Oh, I have an ND filter on my camera, so you probably can't see it that well, but this is my Bumble young. I'm aiming for papillochi. I think that's perfect for spring. And more often than not, I'm also running one more tama, like a color screen tama, and another tama for a video that I may be reviewing or like testing for you guys. So let's move on to the next question. When did I start actively collecting? That's such a good question. Honestly, I can't really tell. It must have been like almost 10 years now. I still remember though that the meats were the first tamas that got me back into that hobby, because before I didn't even know that tamas were still a thing and that they were still being produced. If you've seen my first collection video, I will link it here, then you know that my very first tama that I had was my ice cream version 3. That was the very first tama I owned. Probably was like maybe 8 or 9 years old or so. And then I had the connection version 4.5, the one with the bubbles. The last one I owned as a child was the Family-chi, the Mamechi version. I lost all of them, unfortunately. After that, I still remember that one of my friends gifted me their tamagotchi, the white and red and blue version 4, and that one I owned for quite a few years before I got back into that hobby. But in general, I'd still say that the meats were the first tamas that got me back into that hobby again. I think the fairy and the pastel were the first ones that I owned, and I still remember that I got them used because I didn't want to commit too much into that hobby. Well, here we are. How many tamas did I already start out with? I only had one, and that was this version 4. I got it years ago from a very good friend of mine because he thought I'd be interested in that, and yeah, he was so right. Okay, now we come to a very, very interesting question, which is how to store tamas and vpets. If you've searched for vintage tamas, you probably have seen a lot of discolored ones, and they were often just like yellowed or bleached from the sun. And my biggest tip to that is to prevent them from being exposed to the sun too much. Being in the sun here and there, I don't think that harms them at all. I like to think that they are enjoying the sun just as much as I do, but I'd recommend to not keep them in a spot where the sun is shining on it like all the time. I'm currently also on the lookout for a big shelf or cabinet that, or like a closet that I can use for displaying my whole collection and not having to worry about them being exposed to the sun. I think that's a good solution for displaying them but also protecting them, and I think that's true for all electronics, but do try to keep them in a dry place and away from heat if possible, because Tamagotchi do have electronics in them and you really don't want them to be damaged, especially if you have vintage models. Do you know these little sachets that you sometimes get with your shoes? You can take these and just keep them somewhere near your tamas just in case there's like a lot of humidity. I just feel a little bit safer when I use them, and I don't need these like little sachets anyway, so why not using them for that purpose. I also sometimes get asked if I prefer battery type devices or rechargeable devices, and I personally prefer the normal battery type devices where you can take out the batteries, because the rechargeable batteries, they can decay over time, they can age with time, and exchanging them is a lot more difficult than just taking your batteries out and storing your tamas in a safe place. So with rechargeable devices, I always feel like it's only a matter of time until they kind of give out. If we're talking about convenience, yes, then rechargeable devices, but for longevity, I'd always opt for the normal battery type devices. Okay, now a very fun question: how to display tamas. I brought something. Maybe you know these nail polish racks, and you can display your tamas very easily, so they can fit the normal connections, for example, the vintage of course, and the paradises also fit, and they have different tiers, so you don't need to have like such a big one. These work really nice, I feel like. It just looks very put together. I've also seen little shelves being used, like tiny shelves that are maybe this big and have like little compartments. I think that looks also very nice, just like a big house of tamas. Do you know these like IKEA whole plate things? I don't know what they're called in English, to be honest. I've seen tama friends use these for like putting hooks on them and just hanging your tama on there. I think that's a very nice idea for hangable tamas. I mean, obviously the paradise would be difficult to like hang. You'd have to attach something, but the connections would work well and the vintage ones would work well. And I think that looks very nice. It's also very customizable, also not too expensive. I've also seen other tama friends use like little acrylic stands that are normally for, I think, plates or cards, and these can work well for some tamas. Always beware of the dimensions. An acrylic stand for the connection could work really nicely if it's normally supposed to hold a plate, but for the paradise it's just so thick it probably wouldn't work out, I can imagine. Always check the dimensions. Do I have a favorite shell design? So for that question, I went and got my Sanrio meats. Even until today, this is one of my favorite shells. I think it's just so, it's like the perfect mixture of cute and beautiful. One all-time favorite of mine is definitely the melon soda connection, but I just think this shell is so pretty with the cute melon soda design. I really love this color. It looks so just fresh, and I'm still absolutely loving my Angel re-release reflection shell. I really love the characters that are on the shell here and also on the back side. It also feels very smooth in the hands. I also really like how detailed the wings are. This mirror, I think, is actually quite fun. As far as I know, it stands like for the reflection back on 30 years, because this year is the 30th anniversary for Tamagotchi, and I just thought it to be quite symbolic. And currently I'm also really loving the cherry shell. That's my most recent addition to my collection. I just think it's so perfect for spring and upcoming summer. Look at this cute keychain that I got from a tama friend at a Tamagotchi meetup. It's just perfect. So these are my current favorites, I'd say. The Sanrio meats has been a favorite for quite a few years. I just often find myself looking at the other ones, but it's such a difficult question because in my opinion there really is no ugly shell. How long did it take me to get to my collection? It's been almost 10 years now. My tama is not working anymore. What to do? So there are a few Facebook groups where I know you can post your case, and most of the times the people can help you out there. The tama friends on Reddit are very nice too, because most of the problems are very easily fixable. Oh, it's getting very bright now. Sorry guys, I just noticed because I'm never looking like at the screen, but sometimes you can also send it to specific people that are really technically well versed. If it's only about a stripped screw or so, I've heard people having good experiences with watchmakers, and one general tip I can give to you is if you have corroded batteries, so they kind of look like they exploded, take the batteries out and try to do it with gloves, or just try not to touch like the liquid that leaked. Try to clean the metal contacts with a Q-tip that is like soaked in alcohol. Let it dry out and air out, and then you can try putting in batteries again. And in most cases, according to my personal experience at least, it has worked and saved my tamas. And now we come to the last question. What is my favorite Tamagotchi or virtual pet? I get this question a lot, and honestly, it changes a lot, but I can say what my favorite tamas are currently. I really love my connection re-releases for sure, just because they're so easy to run. I know them from my childhood, they're familiar, they're not too needy, but you get a different character like every generation. I'm still loving running my Tamagotchi Angel re-release. I really like the mini game. I love the animations. I love looking at it on my desk. Currently, I still love running my Merino. Ever since a few weeks before I filmed my Merino review, I started running it and I just never stopped running it somehow. I keep getting the same character though. Believe it or not, but I'm currently also kind of obsessed with my Flower Go Walk. Look at that cute face. I think it's just so easy to take with you, even if it's a little bit bulky. It's so easy to explore like the different destinations. Yeah, you can be so uncommitted to it, which I think is also quite nice. I just feel like it's very easy to take care of, and especially now for spring, I think it's just such a fun device to run. Believe it or not, but I'm still running my Tamagotchi Nano. My all-time favorite, there is none because it just changes too much. It really depends on what I'm looking for in a tama. I really hope that you don't consider this to be like me having no opinion or like a very changeable opinion or so, but I feel like it just really shows how unique every tama is, and for me it's never about like the ultimate Tamagotchi that has all the features I want. I love every tama for what it is, what it represents, what kind of features it has, and I can appreciate them for what they are. I hope I'm not disappointing anyone because I get this question a lot, but it's very difficult for me to answer. What is your favorite tama or virtual pet? Okay guys, so that was my last question. I hope that it was interesting and to some extent helpful to you guys. I thank you guys so much for watching as always. I really appreciate you taking your time to watch my videos. Take care. I wish you a beautiful, beautiful weekend and I hope to see you next week. Bye!